Hi, so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use your own font files to use them on the web. So I have a couple packages I'm going to try out. I've just started a brand new site, so I'm not totally sure which ones I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is just import a few and try them out and see which one works. So I've chosen Voyager and Big River. They're both fonts from Anna Fonts, which is a font designer I really like, and she has very affordable fonts. So let's take a look at this. So I've got here's my kind of basic directory set up for my website. I've got a fonts folder that I've added, and I've put the fonts in there that I want to try out. For these fonts, there are only OTF version, and then for what was the other one? Big River. Big River only had TTF. Sometimes you'll have multiples. You're actually better off installing all of those and linking to all of them, just in case browsers have preferences over one or another. So so what I did was I copied over the files. And if you want to keep a copy, here's a little Mac trick. Which one have I not done? Voyager frames. If I drag this over and hold down the Option key, it'll drag a copy over instead of dragging the file over. So now that we've got that, let's go to our, let's go to a browser, and I'm going to look for the tag because I never remember. So if you just look for CSS local font file, you should come up with a link to something useful. So here is Stack Overflow. We don't really want to look through. Stack Overflow is great if you have an issue that you can't solve. Multiple people generally will usually try to help you find an answer. But right now we just want a font tag. So let's go to developer.mozilla.com and see what they've got here. And there is the tag we want. So it's at font face, and what it'll do is it'll basically import these files in your CSS file for you to use. So let's grab that. And then, I would spend a minute just seeing what other options you have here. There's a lot of font stretching, font style, font weight, font variant, a lot of different options in here for you. So let's go back to here. So at the top of my style.css file, I'm going to paste this tag in at the very top. So you want to import this so that your CSS below it will have the ability to use it. And then in my case, I'm going to use relative links, which means that I want to link things relative to where I am. So here's my CSS file. It's inside a folder called CSS. And the fonts are outside of the CSS folder and in the fonts folder. So let me just delete these. And then, so what I want to do first is get out of CSS. So I'm going to say .. That'll get me out to the main directory, or portfolio. And then I want to go into fonts. So then I can type fonts / this is Sublime. I do this sort of cheat where I click on the file, go to rename, and then I can copy the file name instead of having to type it because I always have typos. I'm going to close that. So I'm going to add the file name here. And then this is an open type font. So the format for this is open type. I would recommend, if you're not sure, to do a search for CSS font type, maybe even just OTF, and see, whatever the font is, to make sure. And you can tell I've been here before. This Stack Overflow actually had the answer. Developer font face. So yeah, we'll just look at W3 Schools and see if they've got open type. So OTF. Let's see. Okay, WAF source. I guess maybe it's not even required. Interesting. Let's look for all instances of OTF. So I just did a Command F. I'm going to look for OTF. Oh, it says it doesn't have any. Interesting. All right. well, I know that it's on the Stack Overflow page. I'm sure it's probably in multiple places as well. OpenType font feature guide. Okay, OpenType. Oh, there's one. So how to use OTF fonts in CSS code example. So this one has the format, and in this case, it's OpenType. So that one in particular needs a little digging, unfortunately, but it's OpenType. The rest of them are just TTF, WOFF. So another thing I want to point out about this is that this is assuming I have more than one file, more than one format for this font. And so it separates them by comma. But in this case, I only have one version of Voyager Bold Sans. So I am going to delete the second instance of this and also the comma. If you had, there may be cases where you're adding formats. So let's say if I have like TrueType or WOF2, you want to make sure that you have a comma after each one. So TTF, WOF2, something like that, right? It's basically like a commaed list. So another way to think about it is it's basically like, you know, a string of a bunch of different URLs. Okay, let's delete this guy. So this is the only one we have. We don't need commas. We just need our semicolon at the end. And then we need to rename this. So right now, if I called Open Sans, it would call Voyager Bold. So let's change this to Voyager Bold. And I suppose I should be smart and keep sans in the name just in case I end up using bold italic or something. So let's try this out. I'm gonna add Voyager for my my header tags. I'm gonna do H1 and H2 will be Voyager Bold. So I can say font family, and then I'll just grab this and copy and paste it. You want it to have the quotes in there. And then let's add a little HTML. So H1, oops, can't type. This is my website. And then I'll do an H2. H2, it's pretty neat. And then let's just do some paragraph text. Jumped over. Jumped over the lazy dog. Okay. Paragraph. All right, let's try this out. Oh, I just realized this is so brand new that I haven't linked to my style file yet. So I also need to do that in the head part of my document. I'm going to let Emmett help me. So Emmett is a code completion tool that you can install via usually whatever text editor you're using. Okay, so I am here. I'm in the main directory. I'm going to use relative linking again. So I need to go into the CSS folder and point to style.css. So I'm going to say, I'll just collapse this so you can see it a little easier. So I'm going to say, go into my CSS folder and then link to style.css. This REL stands for relationship. So let's open this in a browser. Okay, looks good. And then this is the default font that comes with HTML. I'm like a constant command esser. Okay, let's add a default font for our body. So in this case, this is definitely not a good body font, but I will use it anyway because we're here. I'm going to use Big River. So let's go to style. I'm going to grab this font face and I'm going to make a new copy of it. And this one I'm going to call Big River. Big River. And this one is fonts lowercase. I should say that it's important to get the case the same. Sample. I guess this isn't the one I purchased. I guess I should figure that out. So there's an OpenType one, but there's also a TrueType one. So I'm going to say comma, and then I'll just copy this, paste it. So there's my semicolon at the end of my statement, my source statement. And then I'm going to say TTF for the second one, right? Big River sample TTF. And what else? Oh yeah, and then this should be TTF. Okay. Doesn't like my source. I'm hoping that's okay. We'll find out. So now let's just apply this to the body, and then every other tag except for these H1s that have been rewritten, like written over, will be Big River. So let's grab Big River. We'll say font family equals Big River, and let's give that a try. Okay, broke something. Body, font family, Big River, open type. It doesn't like, see how the source is not correct. Font, Big River, sample, OTF, open type, comma, space. Interesting. Font at font face. Oh, look. So the weirdness started here. See how this is all black and now this is purple and black? I lost the last closing curly bracket. So that fixed that. This still looks weird. Let's see if it works. It might just be confused with the comma and I can just ignore it, but let's see. Okay, that looks good. Is this? I guess it is Big River. Paragraph. Big River. Okay. So we can test this body theory. So body should have Big River. H1 should have Voyager, and Big River should be slashed out at the bottom. So, and these are the inspect tools. I always go to them by right-clicking and saying inspect, but you can always get to them by going to View, Developer, Inspect Elements. Okay, let's try one more thing. So what if your font, as in this case, is really close to the default font? What you can do is you can give it a secondary default. So you could give either sans serif or cursive as like a backup. So if I refresh this, it looks like Big River is not working. So I think it's because Big River is a sample file and not available. Let me try another thing. Let's get rid of the TTF and see if just OTF will work. Okay, wow, all right. So I'm not sure why the TTF file was not working, but I was able to troubleshoot it. I thought that I was like, I don't remember what Big River looks like, but I know it's a header font. So I wonder if it's this part, this TTF. Let's go look. So CSS font type TTF, and then maybe we'll do like import font file type, so we can hopefully get better. How to include a font PTF. Let's go to Stack Overflow. Usually what I do when I go to Stack Overflow is I scroll to the bottom. Maybe not all the way to the bottom. Okay, font face didn't work, but replaced it with body. Okay, notice 2 periods. Font true type. Oh, okay. I just had the type wrong, I guess. True type. Let's try it. Okay, still not working because that is cursive for sure. True type. Yeah, so it may be because this TTF font is not working, because it looks like format is true type. True type. Yeah. All right. Let's assume that that one's not working since these are sample files. And so yeah, body. The thing is that if you do that, if you use cursive to make sure that things are working, you want to make sure that you change it back. So in this case, I probably want like impact or something. You can look up default font or like, yeah, default fonts if you do HTML, browser, default fonts. These are the fonts that are installed with browsers. So Times New Roman, serif, Times New Roman, sans serif, Arial, monospace, fixed width. So let's see, let's go to W3 schools. And so Times, serif, here we go, here's the whole list. So you could use maybe Arial Black would be a good substitute, but you can kind of decide what the substitute is. So there is impact and charcoal. Yeah, I'll probably just use these. So if I add these, and I get like a good backup. So let's just make a typo so that we can see impact at work, and then you can kind of see what the fallback will be. We could even see what charcoal looks like. That is not charcoal. Maybe it's just not available on all browsers. Okay, so that in a nutshell is like adding two fonts. Now, what if you only want Big River for something else? Like, what if Big River is just for paragraph tags? You could change this to P. You could also just say, I want to make sure that it's only available for some stuff and not others. So P, comma, LI, comma, TD. Kind of, you want to sort of hit all the things. Block quote. This is a bit of a dangerous way to do things, because what if you end up putting some text just inside a div and you forget to wrap it with a paragraph tag? It'll end up with no font applied to it. So I always like to say, decide what the body font is so that no matter what happens, it'll fall back to some font. Big River, probably not a great body font, but we'll just use it for this instance. Can you mix Google Fonts with locally installed fonts? Absolutely. So we could go to Google Fonts, and I'm a big fan of, let's grab Laura. Okay, we'll use Laura for our font. I'll just do Laura regular, select this style, and then you have some options. You can actually do import, so it'll be nice and tidy with your other one. So we'll just do this. And then, as you can see here, they recommend using serif as the backup, but you're totally welcome to. There I am saving again. You're welcome to do whatever you want. So I can add an import here for Laura. So this is importing this URL. And then I can say for body, so let's see, maybe I'll make this block quote. And then for my body, I'll have Laura. So font, family, Laura. And then I'll do comma, serif. Maybe I'll do like times and serif. So you can kind of decide based on that W3 schools list what you want. You can use single quotes instead of double. I tend to use single quotes, but for some reason today I'm using double. You just sort of want to be consistent. So I could change these to double. Oops. Change this to double. Doesn't really matter. CSS is pretty forgiving. Quote, and also JavaScript. But you just have to make sure that the front and back match, and that, being consistent across your files is good. So let's try this. Let's add a block quote. The world, I have no idea, is a lovely place. Cancel, document. Okay, so here's my block quote. That is Big River. This should be Laura. Let's do our trick to make sure. Style. Let's have the backup be cursive. This Laura definitely doesn't look like cursive, so that's not working. Great. Font, Laura swap. Cut. I'm going to put this at the top. I don't think that's what the issue is. Okay, maybe it is the issue. So that makes me think there's some other problem on my CSS. Font face, source URL. I don't know. They seem fine to me. Let's do this. Let's find out why Laura's doing that. So if I do CSS validator, I'll get to the W3 schools validator, and I can just go to the by direct input tab and paste in all of my CSS, and then check. And I found no errors. Okay, so I don't know why. Maybe it just needs to be at the top. So that's working. I'm just curious. What if it's here? Does it not work? I know that it wants imports at the top, but I thought that font face and import were kind of on equal footing, but I guess not. Oh yeah, probably because this looks like a regular CSS tag. See how it has like the tag name at font face, and then it has curly brackets. This is actually importing a file. So it might be the browser might want the imports first. That's my guess. I'm going to quit babbling. 22 minutes. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I'm signing off. Arrivederci.